Good morning and welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. And as you're getting into the room, do us a huge favor. Tell us where you are joining us from. One thing that you're excited about that you feel life and momentum on. Matter of fact, I'm just going to stick that on the screen really quick there. If you would, just say hello where you're joining us from. Do us a huge favor too. If you're finding that these Mentor Mondays are very helpful, we always, and one of the things that is always really important to us is for us to pour into you at the beginning of the week. And if you're finding that it's beneficial, do us a huge favor and go ahead and like this post, share it, comment. That always tells Facebook that we are doing a good job. And so there's Chris joining us from Washington. Welcome, Chris. There's Stormy, who's joining us from Lakeland, Florida. Welcome, Stormy. So just as you're making it into the room, make sure that you say hello to us so that we can say hello to you, because it's always really important for us to actually engage with you as you're coming in, because this is all about you. And what are we talking about today? What we're really talking about today is how to successfully transition your existing career into a coaching career. And the reality is that pretty much everyone that I've ever met has a previous life where they were doing something before, right? I mean, obviously you guys had a job before you were coaching. I don't know anyone who was coming right out of high school, right out of college into coaching. Matter of fact, for the most part, coaching wasn't even on the radar for most of you. And actually, and let me say hello to a couple more people who are coming in. There's Joanna joining us from Queens. And Father Alex is joining us from Riverton, Connecticut, tuning in, blessed to be applying these principles to my spiritual care practice. I love that. So one of the things that is one of the bigger challenges for coaches is that transition. How do you leave a previous career and step into coaching? And I'm going to show you what's really the biggest issue facing most coaches starting out. I'm actually going to spend the next few weeks unpacking this, but today we're going to talk about the biggest issue that's facing coaches right now in terms of starting, and it is actually right here. Yeah, it's right here in the center, right between your ears, is the biggest issue that is keeping coaches from successfully transitioning from the past career into a new career. And one of my mentors in my life, one of his old sayings that has actually become one of mine, he says, the enemy of the new is the part of the old that's still working. And I'll say that again, just in case you've never heard this before, because as far as I know, I never heard it before him. Not that there's not someone else who's actually said it, but the enemy of the new is the part of the old that's still working. And what's happened for all of us trying to step into a new career, trying to do anything new, is the same thing that faces everyone. It's going to face every one of your clients. You step into coaching, you're going to have clients that are going to have a hard time transitioning into what is new. And they have all of this excitement and they have all of this passion for something new, but there's something in the old that still seems to be working for them, that still seems to be paying dividends. Because here's the deal, is that in the new, there's something really big here. And this is why, here's one of the big reasons why people stay in the old, okay? Not only is there something that's still working in the old, but there is a payoff for staying in the old. Because one of the things that is about the old versus the new is over here, it seems a bit uncertain. And over here, we seem to have certainty. Except for the people like me who stayed in the old until the rug was pulled out from under me. And what I'm talking about is I'm talking about what happened to me in 2007. I had a previous career where I had been really successful, but there was a lot of things about it that was getting extraordinarily dissatisfying. But the reason why I stayed in the job that I was in was for a couple of reasons. One is because my wife had major health issues, and so healthcare was one of those big things because Obamacare hadn't passed yet. So that wasn't going to be an option for my wife having a chronic illness and those kinds of things. There had been pre-existing conditions. But the other thing is that I had certainty. At least I thought that I did. Here's what I know my paycheck is going to be, and maybe it's not really covering all of the bills, and it's not really allowing me to live fully maximized in my life. But the reality is I knew exactly how many digits for the most part. Now, granted, every year we're losing 3%. For those of you who don't know, if your salary has not increased 18% in the last 10 years, you've actually lost money. That's how much the cost of living has increased, and your job hasn't kept up with it. So unless you can look back to 10 years ago and say that your salary at least increased about 20%, 18 to 20%, then you've actually lost money. So what you went with a certain thing didn't really work out for you. And honestly, the certainty didn't work out for me because I got laid off. It was shocking to me that I got laid off with a third of the staff that I was working with. And so what it taught me was this isn't really as certain as I thought it was, but I really wasn't ready to make a big shift, and I didn't really know what I could do. I really wasn't really ready to just take a step. So you know what I did is I did get another job, and I worked that kind of covered the bills, it paid the bills while I built the kind of dream that the dream life that I really wanted. But the big thing for us right now is that certainty is stealing your dreams right now. You're already making sacrifices right now. You're making sacrifices to not go after the thing that's in your heart, or you're sacrificing it on the throne at the altar of certainty, which we keep finding that certainty really isn't that certain, and we're making big sacrifices. So again, it's the enemy of the new is the old that's still working, because there's some things about the old life that still works for us. Again, I know how much I'm going to make. I know what's expected of me. I know that I have succeeded, as much as you want to say succeeded. 75% of the workday for the average person is spent completely disengaged, emotionally, mentally, everything. So the best parts of you aren't actually functioning. You're in most cases not using your creativity. It's not really making a bunch of money for the people that we're working for in most cases, or it's only going to serve those people. What we haven't realized is that our own ingenuity and our own skills and our own ability is actually enough. You guys have never gotten paid what you're worth up to now. No one's paid for your relational skills, for your troubleshooting skills, for your strategic skills, for your listening skills, all of the things that you get that you actually have in your arsenal. I guarantee you this thing is true. What I can absolutely tell you is that no one has ever come to you and said, "Hey, I didn't know that you brought all this game to work with you. Can I increase your salary by like 10 or 20% because I just didn't know how good you were?" Like, you've never heard that. You might have heard some pleasant surprises from people like, "Oh, you're doing a great job. Oh, I love how you're doing this." But you didn't get rewarded because they really didn't value you. And so the more questions that we ask about this, we realize that the old really isn't working, but it is still working. You know where it's working? It's working in your head because you have a habit of going for what's certain. And that's what most people look for, is they don't want change in many cases because they're afraid of leaving behind what's certain. So what do we have to do? For one, to give us more control, because here's the reality is that the more you're in control, more things are certain. I don't want to hang my career, I don't want to hang my future up on somebody else's investment, stock portfolio, any of those other kinds of things. I really want it to be on me. And I also want to count on myself, the skills that I bring, the value that I bring every day to the workplace, that if I was able to take just a fraction of that and begin to apply it to a career, then I know that I can be rewarded for it. Like, I'll never forget the first time that I coached someone, and when I got in my car. Now, listen, I did a lot of things that when I started out as a coach, that I would never tell you to do. Mostly because I made mistakes, all those kinds of things. Reality is that we all make mistakes, right? And I remember the first time that I coached someone, I didn't actually have a coaching contract with them. Like, I didn't have a coaching signed agreement, and we'd never even agreed on how much money I was going to get paid. But I remember when I got in my car. And I also took a check that day, which I would never do again for various reasons. You learn things in business and everything else. But I was just happy to get paid. And the crazy thing is, I'd coached this person at 6 o'clock in the morning. My job didn't start until 8 o'clock in the morning. So I had to drive to where that was in San Diego that morning. But I remember when I coached that individual and I opened up the check and I looked at it, and I had made more money in that 1 hour with that individual than I was going to be making the entire 8 hour day working at my regular job. And it started to stick with me. And it's simple math, quite frankly, that if I was making, because I'll tell you guys, I was making, what happened to this marker? Didn't I just use this? I guess I didn't. If I was making, which I was at the time, if I was making 60K a year, that translates into roughly $28 an hour, something like that. Well, the reality is that I had just proven to myself that in 1 hour, I could make that essentially like 8 times over in 1 hour of spending with a person. And so the simple math just worked out that it's like, dude, can I cover $60,000? How easy would it be to cover $60,000 a year? And quite frankly, it was cake to cover that. I just didn't realize it. But not only, and so what we're really saying in all of this is to get into the new is to, for one, we've got to call into question that the old's really working for us. Like how much of the best of your life are you going to give away? Especially a lot of you who are living in the 40 to 60 year range. Like I'm 45 years old, so I can speak to you with a lot of certainty. How much more are you going to give away of your dreams and really the best of your ability? Because this is what I would say, especially to you guys who are hitting 40 and older. When you hit 40 and older, it's the first time probably in your life that you've got enough wisdom, that you've walked enough life, that you've had enough struggle, that you've had enough failure, that you've had enough success, that you have a real handle on a lot of the skills that you have to truly be able to make an informed decision about your future. Like, I understand when you're like 18 and when you're in your 20s, and no knock on that. It's just that there's some things that come with experience. And so there's a lot more uncertainty when you're younger and you're trying to figure out some of these things. One of the things that when you're younger, though, is that you don't usually have as much stuff and you don't have as much bills and you don't have as much failure. And so for you 20 and 30 somethings, I'd say, listen, why aren't you going after this thing? Because you have nothing to worry about. Like there's always going to be a future and there's always going to be a second chance and there's always going to be more. And your life is going to transform several times over the course of your career. Even your coaching career is going to look different 10 years from now than it does now. But you guys who are over 40, I remember this one individual in particular, and I'm close to them. I love them. I think that they're amazing. And for years, probably 10 years, because they were my senior, for about 10 years, they talked about how bad their job sucked and how much they were not celebrated, how much they weren't really getting raises anymore, and all kinds of things. They had they knew what they didn't want, but they didn't know what they did want, apparently, and they weren't really willing to make the decision. And I'd finally had this conversation at a certain point where it's like, listen, I can't keep having this conversation with you because right now you don't want to do anything about it. So let's not have this conversation until you're ready to what? To burn the bridge and truly make a decision about what you want. So part of dealing with this is, for one, saying that the old isn't really working for us and the new has a lot more to offer, that I can actually dream and I can be a lot more satisfied. Like if I gave you the statistic, the American Institute of Economic Research had done a survey of about 2 million workers, and it's their ages 45 to 65 who made a mid-career change. And they said that even for these people, that about 80 to 90% of them were able to not only make the transition successfully, that's a really high percentage, probably without a whole lot of help. 80 to 90% of them not only made the transition, but they also reported much higher quality of life and making more money than they had ever made before. This is what statistically is actually in our favor, just if you want to actually know the simple math. But the reality is that we've got to move from this place into this place means this right here. It means that the bridge that we have been walking across and all of these other things to make a successful transition across is that you actually have to burn your bridge. This has to go. There has to be a place where we're not looking to go back. Now, here's the reality, and this is what I would really say. Now, I always tell coaches, if you're working a full-time job, even if you don't like it, but you can count on the fact that it's going to pay some of your bills or most of your bills or whatever, don't stress yourself out by quitting a job to go and go full-time in coaching. I never give that advice. And you know why I don't give that advice? Because I'm a man in my 40s, and when I started my coaching career, I had children, I had a lot of big concerns, and I had things that were riding. And the fact is that I wasn't sure I could get health care for my wife. So I'm not telling people to do irresponsible things, but your subconscious knows when you are not really making a decision. And I see it all the time with coaches that they'll go through a program, they'll read a bunch of books, they'll Google, they'll sit here on Mentor Mondays with me, and they haven't even begun to take hold of this career. They haven't even really spent $1 towards getting trained and certified. And they're fooling themselves because their activity is making them think that they've actually moved towards something. But activity that keeps you in a circle is not real activity. Real activity is, just like we work with clients, is that there has to be this right here. And you know what burns your bridges quicker than anything? I'm not saying quit your job is burning your bridge. That's not really what I'm saying. So for those of you I lost because you thought that I was saying go quit your job, well, maybe they're gone. But for those of you who might have been like, oh, that really upset me. If anybody's kind of getting upset, it's because we're not moving in the direction, and we're realizing the fact that we haven't really moved in this direction. Deadlines are what actually cause you to burn your bridge. It tells your subconscious that you're actually going to do something about what you say. What a deadline does is it creates a clear intention towards the future. We're not messing around anymore. Like what happens with deadlines, like let's say that you're in school and deadlines create something. They create a clear intention, but they also create an accountability. And what am I saying in this? I'm saying that, like, let's say you were in school, back in school, or you were in college. Some of you are like, I never want to go back, but humor me and just imagine. When you were in school, now I was always one of the biggest, I wouldn't say that I'm now the biggest procrastinator in the world, but when I was growing up and when I was in college and everything, I was a major procrastinator. I was a major procrastinator with anything that felt like pain, anything that felt like struggle, anything that was really hard to move over into this thing. And so, but here's the thing is that procrastination, you can only get away with it for so long when you're in college. You know why? Because your instructor has this going on right here. They have a clear intention. They are going to hold you accountable. Maybe not every day, maybe not every week, but there's some deadlines that are coming up. You know why? Because there's going to be a paper that's due. There's going to be an exam that's coming. And when the exam day comes and you haven't done anything on it, you're going to get burnt. And so the procrastination for me and for all of us ends the day that there is a clear intention that's set, when there's real accountability, and when there's a deadline that is set. Let me challenge you with this. It is September 14th, 2020. I know this has been a hard year. Some of you thought this was going to be the best year of your life, and you gave up on it really soon. Listen, we can finish the year strong. This month is actually the #1 month for coaching, for your coaching business. January is #2. You can actually hit January if you started today. Like, what's keeping you from saying on September 17th, I'm going to start my coaching career? I'm going to get enrolled. Like, listen, if you don't get enrolled with Life Coach Training Institute, and you can, I mean, you can get enrolled in about 90 seconds and get started. Listen, get enrolled somewhere. Stop this procrastination. Stop wasting your time on Mentor Mondays if you're not going to do anything about it. I'm not trying to be ugly or offensive about it, but we've got to speak real to one another. Like, I'm not helping you if I just allow you to be in a cycle every week when you're on here. It's kind of time to do something. Maybe it's not coaching, maybe it's to do something else, but you're going to have to set with your own self. And maybe today what you do is you say, I'm going to start September 17th, 2020. And I have 3 friends of mine that I've been talking to about this. And I'm going to set a clear intention to begin, get this thing done. And they're going to hold me accountable. I'm going to have them call me at the end of the day on the 17th. And if I haven't done it, well, I don't know what happens then I'm going to do it while I'm on the phone with them, whatever we need. Accountability is not, oh, I'm afraid you're going to do the wrong thing. We need to hold each other accountable for the greatness that's in our lives, for the things that we know are deep down in here, and we have been afraid of our greatness up to now. I'm calling you out of that because it's way too much to sacrifice. I have had more fruitfulness in my life, and not just in a financial sense. Yes, I make plenty of money and I do really well on that, but money's not the thing that drives me. What drives me is seeing people's lives change. What drives me is that my kids, I get to say yes to the things that are in their heart. That if I talk to them about going after the dreams in their heart, I'm not talking BS to them because they see that their father actually goes out and does the same things that I'm telling them to do. There's a certain point where you can't give away what you have not gotten yourself. I mean, it's really hard to impart something that you've played a small game, that you've created a false ceiling because of your fear. And sometimes wisdom and fear sound very similar. Like, I understand that wisdom's supposed to keep us safe, but fear keeps you locked down. Go to the places everywhere that you have fear, and I can show you where your dreams are being squashed, where your future is being limited. And you can't, you know what? One thing that's true about my kids, and what's true about anybody's kids, and actually kids in general, is that they'll always call bull crap, even if they don't do it to your face. They can't help but to look into your life and see that you're playing it safe, that you're playing a small game. Hey, what's taught us more than anything this year is that counting on somebody else's certainty for your life or your existence isn't really even safe anymore. We've got to step up, believe in our greatness, and begin to make these changes. But you've got to burn your bridges. You've also got to understand, you know why you would set a deadline this week instead of next month? Here's the reason why. Because there is no perfect time. There isn't. And some of you have been believing that lie for a number of years. There is no perfect time to start. There is only today. You know how many people have been living for another day, for that perfect day to come? There's never a perfect day, because the one thing that I do have scarcity on is my time. You know, I looked at this little grid. They did a beautiful job on this ad that I saw for this company. I think it's called like Wonder Dads or something like that. And they had a grid that showed like, this is your child's age. And the motivation behind the whole thing was dads making the most of the time with their kids, and dads who have no clue and no ideas that I guess it's a product to try to help them. Not trying to sell this, but it was a really good ad, the best ad that they've done, because none of them have connected with me until I saw a grid. And it says, here's how, if your kid's 8 years old, here's how many days that you've got left with them. My daughter is 16 years old, and it said like 737 days that I have left with her before she's an adult. Oh my God. Like that was a wake-up call. And that's what we're assuming, that we have that much time. If we're being optimistic, if we're being objective as we can. But the reality is that our opportunities are getting swallowed up today. This is why the urgency, this is why we do it with clients, is that you set a deadline, you set a clear intention of what this is going to look like. Hey, here's when I'm going to get started. Here's when I am going to get finished. And here's when I'm going to start my coaching practice. Some of you have already gotten trained and certified somewhere, someplace, sometime. This is where your deadline's got to be set now. So set a clear intention. I want to have 3 clients by the end of this month. This is not impossible. It's actually very easy to pull this off in September. It really is very easy. And whatever it is that's keeping you from being able to move forward is the thing that you've got to crush. It's the thing that's right here. Whatever is holding you in captivity to fear and keeping you moving forward, this is how we conquer it. You know how you conquer it? You conquer it with action. It's the only way that you're going to beat it. I can talk you out of it. I can give you tons of statistics about all the optimistic things that happen for people when they make career changes and all that other stuff. It's all crap unless we take action. When you take action, now you have taught your subconscious, you've taught your brain. You stood out and you said, this is what I do with fear is I move. Because fear loves to keep you cornered. I understand fear. It's not going to go away. You wouldn't need courage if there wasn't fear, right? Courage is taking action. It's saying, here's what I'm going to do. And maybe it doesn't feel like super heroic kinds of things, but it's the start that gets you moving. You can't move a parked car. You've probably heard that. But today is to say the enemy of the future, my future, is the old that's still working. Let's quit compromising. Let's go after these things. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about practicality in your life and in your business, how you make the transition. But if you will not really say yes, which are these things right here, you're not saying yes if you don't have a deadline. I'm speaking to all of you on this. If you have not made a step, if you have not set a deadline, you have not really said yes. And I'm calling you out towards that right now. Let me pay the bills just really quickly. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, you can get trained today. You can start today. Our program is fully online and it's on demand. I'm going to come back and I'm going to answer some questions from you guys as well, do a little more interactivity. But if you have not got trained and certified as a coach, you can do that today. Get enrolled in about 90 seconds. The program is fully online and on demand. That means that you can do it from the comfort of your home. If you're working remotely and you have lunch breaks and everything else, there's 10 core modules that give you the core competencies of coaching. They have activities throughout the modules to help you put these things into practice. And when you pass the exam, you need a score above 70%. You've earned your credential and you get unlimited retakes at no additional charge. It's only $195. Now, we also have a business Jumpstart program, and the Jumpstart program actually includes the Life Coach certification course. So if you enroll in Jumpstart today, you get me live every Wednesday. We have a group coaching call where I answer every business-related question, every coaching-related question. And that way, you have the mentoring aspect. We want to make sure that you don't get stuck in your process of building your practice. It's only $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. And what you get is you get 20 core modules that show you how to build on one on top of the other, an A to Z business development roadmap to show you how to build your practice. Everything from how do you discover your target market, your niche, how do you sell, how do you answer objections, how do you create multiple streams of income? Because some of you are thinking coaching's just one-on-one clients. There's a lot of ways to offer your coaching services, and we show you how to do that. You can get feedback on anything that you're working on. There's an online community where you can connect with other coaches. It's a lot of brilliant people, an incredible supportive community. And that program is only $97 a month. And for those of you who think $97 a month is a lot of money, well, that's a mindset as well, because you're already spending it. How do I know? Because Starbucks is $3.25 a day if you're just getting a cheap cup of coffee. That's you not getting a latte or anything else. What does that translate to? That's $97 a month. So you're already spending it. Are you betting on yourself? Are you investing in yourself? Are you just continuing to make Starbucks a ton of money? I don't know. I don't know what you want. Let me say one more thing that is coming up that you might want to know about. We have a coaching boot camp coming up September 25th through the 27th. And in the boot camp, it's different than the Life Coach certification course in that Life Coach certification course covers tons. Obviously, you can get trained and certified there. But often we get asked, hey, is there more? Can we do more that's like live? Can we do interactivity? What all kinds of things do you guys offer, that kind of stuff? What we did is we built this program for the people who are wanting that live experience. So we do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We just do a couple of hours on Friday night. We do 8 hours on Saturday and Sunday. It starts at 9 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday. And what do we cover during that time? Well, it's an expansion, a big expansion on top of what you get in the life coach certification course. So if you do Jumpstart, you actually get the life coach certification course. You get trained and certified. We cover what is coaching, how to listen on a transformational level, the steps of a coaching session, building a coaching framework that gets results, focused, effective coaching that cuts out the fluff, high impact coaching. We give you 2 models of coaching. We show you the core skills and characteristics for breakthrough coaching, the best practices for ethical coaching, how to ask powerful questions, how to build coaching relationships that last. And here's what we would say. It is live. We didn't used to offer anything that was live until except for the early days of Life Coach Training Institute. So it is live. It's expanded training that we don't offer in our life coach training. There's live Q&As after every session, and you also will see live coaching practice demos. And yes, life coach certification is included. The price tag on that is ridiculous. It's only $247. Now, the life coach certification course is $195. So what you're really talking about is 20. Basically, you get the life coach certification course and 20 plus bonus hours of live training that you'll have access to for months to come. I'm inviting you guys to all be a part of it. It's not this weekend, but it is the following weekend, and you can get enrolled today if you want to do boot camp. Now, let me answer any questions that I see on here. It's all the selling from today. Let me say hello. There's Ron from California. There's Hannah joining us from the Philippines. Welcome, Hannah. Shekinah joining us from Trinidad. All right, let's see what else I see here. Melisha is joining us from Ohio. Darlene joining us from Raleigh. Letitia joining us from Texas. Welcome. Louise from Chicago. And there's Eddie. He says, I started getting paid when I stopped thinking people wouldn't pay for my skills. That's awesome. S. McLean from Virginia. Telsha from Brooklyn. Stephen from Los Angeles. Stormy says, my problem transitioning the job is transitioning things like the health insurance, the 401k, and other benefits. I have no clue on how to do that. Honestly, all you have to do is find a professional who works with those things, either it's healthcare or 401k, and get it moved over. I had that done within about 48 hours. The lack of knowing how to do something should never keep you from being able to move forward. Now, what I would say is you can absolutely stay in the existing job that you are while creating a coaching practice, because I was making more money in 10 hours a month in my side business than I was working 160 hours a month in my regular job. But don't let those kinds of questions lead you to inaction. Matter of fact, what I ended up being able to do is move things around where I actually ended up with a better advisor and made more money after the things were moved around and I was on my own. So that can be done. Like I said, let other people, they won't charge you even to do that. You can find companies who will move that stuff around for you and will actually get your healthcare stuff set up and transition for you. And you don't have to do it yourself. They'll just ask you the basics of what's your phone number, whatever else that they need in terms of the basics of you, which is usually about a 15-minute interview for any of those things, and let the professionals do their job. They get paid by their companies to do that. That way you don't have to stress over it. So that's what I would encourage. Mary is joining us from California. Welcome. What about when you miss your deadlines? Well, the easy thing when you miss a deadline is not to get down. I'm not into guilt and shame if I miss a deadline. Do I miss deadlines today? Sometimes, but I have to ask my question about why I missed my deadline. Usually it's a time management issue. Usually it's a priorities issue. And I have to come back to a place of asking the question, what is the most important thing to me? But setting a deadline, I'm not afraid of setting deadlines. Matter of fact, vast majority of the time, because I set the deadline, I actually got something done, as opposed to it just lingering out there. If it's lingering out there, one of the things of vision, if for your life, the way that vision actually works is that there's an old proverb that says, people without vision perish. There's another translation of it that says people without vision are unrestrained. And so really what it means is that the vision, the deadline, when I know what I want, it's grabbing a hold of it. And with it being unrestrained, when I think that I want something and it's just flying around, the deadline and grabbing a hold of it actually restrains me. It actually keeps me on the path and it moves me towards it. And so I count on the fact that most of the time you're actually going to nail it because you set the deadline. But if you don't, you regroup and then you make the adjustments that you need to make. That's what we do with clients, because we'd never bash people for not being able to hit a deadline. We'd have to ask the questions of, hey, do you need some more support? What will actually help you create a better deadline and help you stay on point? It's usually values and priorities more than it is, and a little bit of time management than about anything. So hopefully that's helpful. Eddie says, you're on fire today. Thank you, Eddie. I'm taking the next step. This topic is so confirming the transition. Thanks so much, Shekinah. Paul, this is some of what I've experienced, fear. Thank you for this truth. You are so welcome. Mary says, sorry I'm late, but we're glad that you are here, Mary. Joanna says, I'm just concerned about finding clients. I'm in a position where I don't need to worry about medical insurance. Well, here's the thing, is that I appreciate your honesty on that. But the fear of the unknown, which is the uncertainty, is what keeps us from making commitments. Getting clients is actually cake. It's really not rocket science, and it's really not challenging. But the unknown about it, whatever it is, the fear of the potential rejection, the fear of all that's involved in it, is the thing that keeps us shut down. What we do with anything, and this is what we always tell our clients to do, one of the things that overwhelms people and keeps them from getting to their goal in many cases is that their eyes are only focused on the end game right here. Now, you always need to know what your end game is, and that's what's got to start things. But if my eye is only focused on the end game, I can get overwhelmed. I need to know where the end game is, but what I need to have are these milestones along the way that get me there, because it's the steps that get me there. Not worrying about like, oh, and I don't know how to do this and everything else. Well, the information's always there. There's always support. There's always an ability to take a step. And so what we've got to do then is that we've got to set the stage, the steps, and that's what we've done in our Jumpstart program, is we've helped you not have to be overwhelmed thinking about the steps. We know what the steps are, and we can get there. Alex says, Doris says, will a replay be available? Yes, actually, this video will be immediately available at the end. Alex says at the same link and everything. Alex says, for anyone who has taken the Life Coach Training Institute certification course, I highly recommend it. There's others that I've taken in addition, but that training was a phenomenal first step. Thank you so much, Alex. Joanna says, I'm currently taking the boot camp and plan to take the certification course. Awesome. Shekinah says, it is really awesome. I highly recommend it as well. Dora says, I want to stop playing small, get into action, and start my coaching practice. That is awesome. Hello, Azad. You are so welcome, Tony. Thanks so much for joining us. Dee Dee says, where can we register for the course? There's a link inside the description of this video that'll take you to our website, and you can get registered for any program, whether it's Jumpstart or the Life Coach certification course. It'll take you there. Aruva says, good vibes. Thank you. Joyce joining us from Arizona. Love joining us from Oregon. Welcome. And Steven, can you talk about credential social media integration and ID lookup? Yeah, it's a service that we offer that most schools don't. And so, so we've had a system out there for people to be able to call and verify credentials, but also that we host your credential so that you can pull it into your website, or you can share it on LinkedIn or any of those places. It's something that we offer at no additional charge. Eddie says, should fees be cutter? Absolutely not. I think that you should get paid for what you for the perceived value that you bring. So whatever you think that you are worth, I guarantee you're getting paid that. And so definitely don't want any cookie cutter fees that are out there. That's one of the big issues that I see for a lot of coaches starting out, is they ask that question, and usually what they'll do is they'll try to build a practice based on some weird number that's out there, like, oh, here's what a going rate is. No one's shopping going rates. They're not. People don't even know how much coaches cost. And if they wanted to work with you versus working with me, they've got to pay your fee, not my fee, because there's only one option to work with you. There's just you. And so what we've got to do is that we've got to build a high personal value, because people will pay what you think that you are worth. And so if coaches aren't certain in that, even if they went with going rates, like the average first year coach in the United States is making $118 to $128 per session. If coaches don't have that personal value and worth, they usually will just come out with some ambiguous number like $49 an hour, because I'm just starting out, or $75 an hour. You need to know what your worth is, and you need to know what your goals for your business are, because $50 an hour might not get you there. $75 an hour might not get you there. Choose what you want to get paid. How many hours do you want to work a month? You actually get to choose that in your business, and you get to choose any number that you want. And listen, here's the crazy thing, is that it's much easier to find someone to pay a premium for your services than it is to find 30 people to pay for cut rate coaching. And the cut rate people are never going to get the same kind of transformation in their life, because generally they're not committed to it, because they don't value what you do. And so, like I said, it's much easier to find 5 people who will pay you $300 an hour, $300 a session, than it will be to find 30 who will pay you $49 a session. That is a fact. And that's something that has rung true for every coach that I've ever worked with over the years. When are you going to have your next boot camp? I will show you that one more time if I can. I said that I would. Where's my clicker? I'll turn my clicker on and it'll get me back to where I was before, right? The next boot camp is actually going to be the weekend of the 25th through the 27th. So let me put that up. That's when the next boot camp is. So we need to change the date, and we're going to have the date changed on, because we just set it actually literally in the last 24 hours. So it's going to be on the website today. Stormy says, what about specialized credentialing? I'm looking to work with in retirement coaching. I really don't see a value in most specialized coaching. What you see in specialized coaching in most cases is not really specifics on how to coach a particular group of people differently. It's usually how to market to a particular group differently. It's usually because coaching's coaching. So how we coach people, the process, the steps that we walk people through and everything else, we show you that in real explicit detail, the coaching models that we show you during the boot camp. And you can use that with any niche that you want. And also in our Jumpstart program, we really help people discover whatever niche that they want to work in. Joanna says, when you say you should set a goal for your clients, like say 3 months commitment, when you say 3 months, do you mean one time a week, or what kind of parameter? Well, that's actually not what I'm saying at all. I mean, the goals are all going to be, here's what we'd say: coaching's client-centered. So the client is going to determine their goals, and they're going to determine the steps. We are a guide in that process. And so we're an equal partner in helping them push them forward, push the learning forward, push the commitments, all of those other kinds of things. So every goal, like you might have a goal that you knock out in a month. I mean, that's going to be a very small goal. But I would also say that I have a lot of clients who started businesses, and depending on the type of business, that goal might be a year out. If it's a brick and mortar, like I knew a guy who was starting a restaurant, and that was not going to be done in 30 days. You can build a coaching practice in 90 days. That's a much easier, it's just an easier business to launch. But like for this individual, it was going to be like at least a year in the making. They didn't think so, but it was like a year and a half of the making, quite frankly. So that was their end goal. But then there were smaller goals and steps that they're taking along the way. And we just help our clients get really clear. When we're working with people, that goal may be months in advance, but every time that we meet, we're taking action and we're getting clear and honing in and moving them forward towards that. So hopefully that clarifies what we're talking about in there. All right. I am going to assume that is everything. We went in a little bit of overtime, but it was awesome. And thank you guys for sticking around with me. Again, there's a link inside the description. If you would like to get trained and certified, there's a number of different ways that you can go about it. You can get enrolled today, get in our life coach certification course, or you can enroll in boot camp, get the life coach certification course today, get started on it. And the weekend of the 25th through the 27th, we'll have a live weekend boot camp, and you're going to get to know me way too well, but you'll be in the room with a ton of people who are learning just like you, who are hungry, who are passionate about changing the world. And I invite you to be a part of that. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. If you haven't already, like this post, share it. And that tells Facebook that we're doing a great job, or it even tells YouTube or Instagram for that matter. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care.